GM, and welcome to From A to Z, an Aavegotchi podcast with ZombieShepherd and ZeroXZfi. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Jim, doing good. Been busy. Busy as always, but doing good. How you doing?
Oh man, same. October for me is crazy. Lots of stuff. I
Yep,
always do the most in October. I'm always like just going crazy, turning into a goblin. And and then besides that, with everything else going on,
for sure.
season transition at Bankless and, Zimtimo projects, we got our projects.
Tons of new Aavegotchi releases, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
everything's happening at once. We just a lot to pay attention to right now. It's exciting times.
Oh
It's a
man,
bear market, but here we are. Exciting times.
yeah, you're not lying because Thursday we've got the art drop. We're gonna have the event, the
Yep,
XP event in
yep.
the server. But then also they're doing an AMA with Polygon the next day in the Polygon server on Friday. This is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
gonna have to tune in for that one.
and I'm wondering because Zoundsy does a lot of those AMAs in the Polygon server. So I'm wondering if Zoundsy is going to be doing this AMA. That would be cool.
Hmm.
Zoundsy was supposed to be the third Z in From A to Z, and such a
Indeed,
busy guy, it never panned out to have the three Z's. But we kept him in the name anyway. We kept the three Z's
he's here with us in spirit.
exactly. But yeah, that's interesting. They're going to do the AMA in the Polygon server. That's really cool. It's supposed to be about fake gotchis, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of other stuff as well.
Mhm.
That one's going to be a little difficult though, because I would like to stream it, but I've also got to do the Bankless community call at 10 o'clock. And if they don't stick to a tight schedule on this, then it's going to be a bit of an overlap. So you and
Yeah,
I might have to work something out, maybe.
we'll coordinate. Yeah, yep. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
We'll make it work.
absolutely.
Lots to talk about this week, though, for sure. The
Oh yeah.
Forge. Forge is on the what is it? On the snapshot now to be reviewed and approved or denied. But the Forge is a lot to unpack, so we'll get into that. What else? We got
Um,
V2 coming, I think. Has that been confirmed? I know we're getting the fakes. I know we're getting the observers. I thought it was a V2 package.
I don't. Well, so V2 is actually the website. So this is just Gotchiverse
Okay.
stuff we're getting on Thursday. So
Okay, I gotcha.
yeah, so V2 is a relaunch of Aavegotchi.com and that being better integrated. So,
Perfect.
um, yeah, I'm actually. So that's interesting because we're supposed to get the queue this week as well, right? Which I didn't. I wasn't sure about that. But if we're supposed to get the queue this week, I thought we would not get the queue until we got V2 because I figured that would like be part of the new rollout of the new look.
I thought Fake Gotchis was part of V2 because they had initially dropped that, in their little teaser trailer, but fakegotchis.com can totally exist as a separate site and still be dropped on Thursday. Yeah, maybe V2
Right,
isn't in the
right.
works.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Fakegotchi.com as its own site. That's also something that
It's not live yet. I tried
right, that's new news, right? Like we didn't know about
yeah,
that until recently. So,
yesterday.
yeah. Oh, yesterday. So there you go. All right. Yeah. So yeah, big stuff coming just this week with that. I don't even, between that and the Forge, what other updates are there? Like, what do you, like,
Observers are in there. Queues coming. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. So we'll just jump in and start unpacking, I
hell yeah.
guess. Let's leave this Forge for last. I think the Forge is going to have the most to go over. We got details, and it's up on the forum or up on the snapshot right now, ready
Right.
for a vote. But we know we've got observers. There's been speculation as to whether or not it'll come with the grid after that observer origin leak. I
I
haven't heard
found
anything
out.
about the grid. Haven't heard anything about it being included, but it could be a surprise, a pleasant surprise if observers are launched and they spawn out in the grid and you have to walk to the Citadel. I don't think we're there yet.
Right,
I think
right.
it will just be color coded. Here's where they're from. But I'm getting antsy. That grid was supposed to be here like last year.
Well, earlier in the year, it was supposed to be here like April.
Yeah.
Yes, that I'm excited about observers because with bounce gates and observers, the bounce gates instantly gave me the idea for the pub crawl. So this is really it's gonna step up the GMI game for parties, because for me, like, personally, I was already able to get other people from other communities to pay attention to GMI because of, being involved in podcasting and other teams that are building communities. It was easy to be like, hey, look what I'm doing over here. Like, whenever you're talking with another group of people about what you should be doing, it's almost like, well, me and this other group of people over here are kind of like banging things out. I don't know what y'all are doing. But
you can use this as an example if you want. Here's a link. Yeah.
And
I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
So with observers and bounce gates, I think it's going to make it super easy to get people in now to be like, hey, you could actually come in the Gotchiverse and hang out with us. And I think that has been something, it's going to really up it with GMI's events, us being able to bring more people in. We've all got friends that are in other things that we would love to get over here at GMI.
Onboard them into the Gotchiverse. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So what would be the incentive then if someone were to join as an observer, for example, and they can't pick up Alchemica? What would be, like, other than attending an event, what would be a use case? Like, what's an event that we could have that wouldn't require someone to pick up Alchemica or participate in the surroundings?
I mean, if you're asking GMI, then we throw art parties, and every one of those parties we've thrown has had a POAP or a badge of some sort. So at the very least,
you'd have gotten something. That's right.
Right. Besides, we have raffles and whatever other operations. So if you're coming as a part of a community party, that community is going to be incentivizing you more than the Alchemica. You know what I mean? I think
for sure. Yep.
I
was only brainstorming here.
Yeah. That's the next. That's why they're calling the art drop the next layer of the social drop. This is like, you say, hey, we have all these things we can do, but then you're kind of like, oh yeah, we can chat two different kinds of ways. We got the Citadel chat, we've got the in-game chat. Like, what are we doing here? So like, GMI started throwing parties, and like now it's like, yeah, you can, more and more people to come to the parties. And like I said, the pub crawl, I can't believe we haven't thought of this sooner, because realistically, like with Spillover off especially, it's like this is what guild gameplay was supposed to be about, is coordinating to like cause spillover together. And I understand all the mechanics aren't on, but we all have land and we all got farms and stuff. So if we get together and start popping all these parties together, like, I think it would be worth it for everybody.
I do too. I think it's a great
Definitely. idea. Yeah. Good idea, that is.
So
fun too,
Logistically, what do we have to do here, man? Like, we started John Gotchi's. We need to find people in John Gotchi's neighborhood that want to throw down. Like, that's, I think, the natural way is you start where you're at, and you start, if we can get it to be a walking parade, that would be awesome. Because then if you don't really need to bounce out that much, that's great. But if we have to bounce out 2 or 3 times, that's cool too. But like, the less bouncing, the better. I like the idea of having some bounces because obviously we have the bounce gates.
We get to use them,
Right. So it'd be really cool to have like a walking parade for like maybe the first half hour, 45 minutes of the call. We're able to kind of walk from parcel to parcel. We're going from District 2 into District 1, kind of doing a thing. And then maybe we got to pop out to District 4 because Friend Zone starts popping off at the top of the hour. So then we go through District 4 and hit a route. And then, of course, at some point, we're going to have to end up at GMI in District 12, which we've already got. We've got our 3 parcels. You've got a parcel. No Futuristic is right behind us. Hey, who are
Hot Curly Fries in there. Hot Curly Fries one.
Right.
The snack right behind us. If he's around, he can pop his parcel.
That's what we need to do is we just need to coordinate. And then the way we do it down here in New Orleans with parades is you got parade route maps. So that we need to make a Gotchiverse map that shows kind of the timing of where you need to be And then we
I
need
like
to
this.
like stick to that schedule. So that's the hardest part, is getting parcel owners to realize like, hey, you're on at 9:15, even if you
So
can't
you have
make
to
the
stop
rest of the
collecting.
party. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Well, if I can
That's
rent,
awesome.
go ahead, Manor.
I was to say that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun thing. It'll be a fun event. If I can rent 5 just rando gotchis at even like a break even, I don't need to make any money. If I can rent those 5, I'll spin all the level 1s that I have in 14, in District 14, and that is just pure spillover.
Nice.
You know what I mean? If I'm renting to break
Right.
even, it doesn't matter. I'll just pop them all in Bounce-Gate. So I think
Can't wait
we
for
should
that.
add District 14 to the route.
Hell yeah.
I gotta do something with those
Cool.
parcels.
And then, yeah, like, no futuristic is everywhere, so he can probably just follow the route and pop his neighboring parcel that just happens to be there,
Maybe we should get his advice on the route.
So I just, as I'm listening to you guys too, I'm also thinking that we could reach out to like Dr. Wagme and Bearded and the Gotchi Vault. I mean, they have representation in every single district, so they could easily contribute to like fulfilling, the supply need to hit every district. So like we could probably map to our hearts like convenience and just let them help us fulfill, and they'll be the proud sponsor of the
Interesting.
Gotchi Crawl.
So using the vault, how would that work? Like
Well, we'd grab one of them, like one of the guys
scholars
from
would be able to do
VGG,
it?
and just like how if I was participating, I would have to hop on my parcel and I would manage it. VGG would need to have a representative, someone from the vault would just need to be able to be like, okay, guess what we did at the vault? We're coordinating with 30 scholars all at the same time, and we're gonna do all these rentals and do all these parcels and do all this flex because that's how tight our ship is. Like, I think that they could probably pull something off like that and would see the value in it.
I don't know about round 1, but I definitely agree. I think we could work to this end for sure.
All right. Yeah. So how do we coordinate that? Who do we need to get in touch with to make this happen?
Probably Wagme. Bye, Rusty.
I feel like he's got so much going on. He's not the guy who's going to coordinate this.
For sure.
I
For
think
sure. But he would be able to
I'm
do it.
into it. I think I'm into it. I think I'm into it. I think the bandwidth's there. The summit's behind us, NFTs are behind us. I think I've got the bandwidth at least to be able to put the docs together and try to get some rough mapping and tap the right people. I'll definitely help support you on this because it's a really good idea.
Perfect.
I want to see this happen.
Yeah, that's kind of why I keep chirping on it too, because I figure it's going to take we're all asset owners here. So it's going to take the right people hearing it and going, oh yeah, I'm in there. I want to do this. I've got X parcels. Let's do this.
Well, and everyone else is bleeding in the streets. I want to see like Gotchi Gang coordinating a fucking parade in our functional
Right?
metaverse.
Hell yeah, man. That's what it's all about. Exactly.
We can smash that mindset of this is my Alchemica and the spillover is wasted and I have to get all of it. We can smash that with like, I got my bit. I want to share.
Yo, it's
And
even
approach it from
more
that.
important now because I forget the damn thing they call it, the cron or whatever. What do they call the spillover when it's not from there's a term for it that Coder Dan dropped a few weeks ago. But basically, spillover is not on in the weekends. Only Altar and Reservoir spillover is on. The regular spillover, just like Alchemica every 30 seconds, 15 seconds, like that is off. What was the point? I was making a point about that. Oh, with that off, we need each other even more because basically, unless you happen to luckily come across people popping parcels, there's really no natural spillover. So whatever you're seeing is because you're in proximity to somebody who just channeled or emptied a reservoir.
That makes sense.
Because all we're getting right now is the hot zone spillover,
I didn't even
100%.
realize that. I didn't even realize that rain was going to be a long-term thing beyond the initial playtest.
No,
I thought the spillover.
That is natural spillover. There was supposed to be spillover on all the time, and that spillover comes from channeling and emptying reservoirs, but it's just been these different experiments, I guess, with how it functions. And there was, like the times that we've had the lag in the community calls is because they had both on at the same time. And so the natural spillover was causing a lag in the hot spillover. And see, the natural spillover, the only reason we have so much of it is because we've had spillover off. So it's going to an account and just stacking there. So that's actually something you and I may have talked about this, and this is something we can maybe get into a little bit. But like with spillover off and being gathered somewhere, wouldn't turning spillover on just be like a bank run? Like it would just be like a floodgate because there's so much that's been being saved. You can basically think of it as like 4 or 5 months of like spillover. Olympic-sized pool is filling up somewhere. You know what I mean?
They can control the release rate, though. They can control how many big blocks or little blocks. So just because there's a pile doesn't mean it's going to burst like a dam necessarily.
Right.
They're just going to have a little trickle forever, or as much of the faucet as they want.
Right.
I would like to know what the plans are, or what the ideas for plans are regarding that spillover pile. I know it had been mentioned at one point that maybe that gets divvied up among the district DAOs, and the district DAOs determine what to do with it. But I don't think there's anything official or
that kind
like specifics, anything posted. I'd be very interested in that.
There was a lot of talk around that. It was talked about the district DAOs being in control of it. A lot of people were in the community were like, well, some of it should be given back to asset owners, to landowners, because like, some people were like, it's our spillover, and it's technically not our spillover. But I do get the argument that, like, with spillover off all this time, we could have made more with spillover. So maybe parcel owners should get some cut of that spillover back. Because we would have otherwise earned it. Right. You know what I mean? So that there's an argument there to be had, but also then there's the district DAOs thing. That one is I'm kind of for that one as well, because then you're putting us in a very collaborative light where like, well, now you have to think about how to spend this money with all the neighbors you haven't been talking to.
It's probably the best, most effective way to get people participating in a DAO. If you never have before, now you have a reason to, because there's a spillover pile that you can either change your lampposts or fix your potholes or,
And especially if you're one of those people who's looking at it as my spillover, well, then you better go cast your vote on what we're doing with your spillover, because
that's right.
That's what's happening.
That's right.
So yeah, I can see. I like the district. I mean, I could see some combination of both, though. There's no reason you couldn't say like, "Hey, we're just gonna like airdrop parcel owners a bunch of Alchemica," for.
That's true.
Or not even parcel owners, but channelers specifically, because also you can there. It's all on chain. You should be able to. I mean, more or less. It is all on chain, so we actually know, quote unquote, whose spillover is whose, even if you wanted to go that far back. So you could actually airdrop proportionally the amount of spillover. Like if you wanted to say, oh, we're giving everyone back 10% of the spillover that, didn't happen, basically.
That'd be hard to calculate. It seems very unlikely.
Well, no, it's not that hard to calculate, because when you go on, and actually, this is actually funny, because if you go on Polygon Scan and look at some of these transactions, you can actually see everything. You can see the spillover, what went to your Gotchi. This is one thing that's confused me with some things, is that I've actually seen on a bunch of transactions, on most of the channeling transactions, if not all of them, there's a big lump of zero going nowhere, like going somewhere. And I'm like, how is zero going somewhere? And so that was one of those things where I was like, wait, are we actually wrong about spillover? Is spillover being off meaning that it's literally not even minting? Because technically channeling is
interesting.
Minting. That's like printing Alchemica. quote unquote. It's not really, but
I see. So the thought before may have been, as you channel, there's an amount that goes to your wallet, amount that goes to the portal, amount that gets burned, whatever the case might be. So if I understand what you're saying correctly, the polygon scan logs have a 0000 for FUD FOMO alpha kek on every channeling transaction.
at
That's
one,
just-
yes,
that's what-
and it'll be like a split that goes 3 places, and one of them
Yep.
will say 0.
On every channeling.
Yeah, I'm
We
actually,
probably could back into this number. What is if you could figure out proportionally how, oh,
that's
shoot.
true. Yeah, if you could figure out like what
No.
did channel, what percentage would that be, and if that
Right.
equals the alter, like what it should be, and then the 0 sum, it is. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying. I
Yep.
I track you.
If what you expect, if the 3 categories that we expect to have been split up don't total the known value that will come from each channeling based on a kinship of a Gotchi channeling, then the difference would have been the spilled on the ground spillover that is not accruing, not minting. You're right, it's not even being minted. If that's the case, then there isn't necessarily a pile accruing, is there?
That's
It
what
would just
I
be a
was getting.
slower trickle. Interesting.
What I'm saying is that exactly that we've never actually asked the question. Like some people have asked and we haven't gotten a straight answer, like where is the spillover? And I guess what I'm saying is that it may not be anywhere when it's off.
Right.
It's just not minting it.
Yep, I think you might be right. I would love to have clarification on that. If you could remember, or if one of us could remember for the weekly hangout this week, answers
Because the
there
thing
would be
is,
good.
if spillover is gathering somewhere, it's just a token address, and we can go look at it and say, well, this is how much
Right.
spillover exists. Like you can see it. Like it wouldn't be a guess.
Maybe the
And that's
to
another
address for the
reason-
0 transaction.
That's another
We
reason
could check
I think. Yeah, you're right about that. That's another reason I'm thinking that like no one else has actually brought this up, and we haven't seen any analytics that are like, oh look, this is how much spillover.
Here's what's accruing. Yeah,
Somebody
we
would
haven't
have
seen
come
any
up
of
with
that.
that number at some point. Like we're so into like figuring all this crap out. Nobody has come up and been like, well, here's the. It's almost like in Dune when they've got the pool of water under the, like they've got all the secret water, and it's like nobody knew we had all this secret water under here. It's like,
Did you just ruin Dune for me? I
there's
haven't
a whole.
seen or read
No, I
it.
don't. No, I don't even think
I probably
did.
won't. You're fine.
No, that was more the David Lynch Dune. So that movie ruined itself. That had nothing to do with me.
Owned.
No, personally, I love that movie, but it's
So good. Man. All right, so we got a lot going on with spillover. We need some answers. We've got what else? So much coming up. Aside from the launch stuff, let's talk about the core props. We've got AGIP 43 and 44. Those are closing in a few days, right? Let me see. Aavegotchi DAO. Snapshot. We've got the Forge, which is not a core prop. That's a SIG prop. 44 is mint and transfer 50 DAO parcels and 4 million FUD equivalent of Alchemica to the DTF for contributor compensation. Got a day left on that one. And then 43 is add DAO liquidity to Ghost Alchemica pairs.
that one's pretty tight. The DAO parcels, AGIP 44, that one
Wow.
is pretty tight.
Yeah.
63 to 37.
We've reached quorum.
Yeah, but it's still pretty contested. That's a pretty Yep. That
It'd
was
be
an
interesting to see what the
interesting one,
forum
too.
discussions look like.
Yeah. Well, I know. So the way I interpreted this, and I don't know what the community's take on it, but the way I interpreted what happened in conversation was that Dr. Wagme thinks that this would be really powerful payment for people who are contributing to the DAO. Like some people don't want to accept Ghost because of the tax implications. And other, just in general, like giving away these DAO parcels that are for the DAO to contributing DAO members is kind of a bigger thank you than the ghost itself. It was kind of the thought that Dr. Wagme was having. And I think that Coder Dan had a little pushback on it, mainly because these parcels are unminted. And he didn't want to mint these parcels to send them.
I see.
Yeah, because that would be new parcels being minted at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the community pushback of like why this high no answer is, but I think that was the only Pixelcraft pushback, was just that not minting new parcels.
Good to know.
Yep.
Then let's see. That ends. I want to get the exact time. 6 a.m. That must be Eastern.
And then
in one day.
The DAO liquidity is another one too that is now going back and forth, because we were already supposed to have done this, but Dr. Wagme doesn't want to pair it when Alchemica is this low, because it would lock in these prices. He's saying, yeah. So this was.
I don't know enough about LPs to make that decision.
Well, this is an interesting one too, and this is one of those, just because this was supposed to have already have happened, and since it didn't happen, now we're like talking about it again and running. I mean, this is a sig prop, so we're running a sig prop on something that's already past core prop, like.
Yeah, that seems weird.
Yeah.
This is a new core prop, though.
Oh, it is a core
This is a new XP core prop. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean, is like we're almost double rolling this one. Are we going to go best 2 out of 3? Like,
What was the original score? What was the original vote on the first core prop? Yes, do it. No, don't do it. Yes, do the limited amount. Do you remember?
It was do it. Maybe Mycelium has some more on that. Oh yeah.
No, you're exactly correct.
Yeah.
And it just didn't. It just didn't get done.
I guess
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was some discussion about where to source the liquid. At least this is what Coder Dan said on the subject last time I heard him talk about it. There was some discussion about where to source the liquidity specifically, like to source it out of the Aavegotchi DAO war chest or the DTF war chest, or would Pixelcraft be providing this? There was some confusion on their part, and so it kind of was like a paralysis through analysis. And I don't know that there was like gigantic enthusiasm to march right towards making this happen ASAP, and so I think it's just kind of been like just general like execution apathy.
Right.
That makes sense.
I remember over the weekend Coder Dan actually saying about this specifically. He was saying like what Mycelium just said about are we supposed to, is Pixelcraft supposed to add this liquidity? And then he specifically said that like, if we have to, we'll do it this time, but we shouldn't be doing this for the DAO. The DAO should be doing this for themselves. So yeah, I think this was one of those execution things where it was just like, wait, who's supposed to do this? The gun fired and everybody said, wait, who's supposed to run?
I see. Okay, so we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. This one looks pretty clear, though. This one is specifically saying the DAO, the Aavegotchi DAO, is providing the liquidity. So they must have touched it up and clarified some things.
That makes sense.
This one right now is currently like quorum's reached, and it's pretty clearly going to be the add 50k ghost option.
Way big.
So.
Yeah, and then the bonding curve emergency plan. We talked about that a couple episodes back. This is really not about cutting the bond at this point, but being ready to cut ties with DAI and the bond at a moment's notice.
In the event, yeah, if DAI goes downward or sideways, or regulatory things drop on DAI in the wrong way, we may need to pivot. So yep, that's a emergency plan prep.
Yep.
But before there's actually one more too, new wearable sets. But the only 2 right now that we're providing XP are the mint and transfer DAO parcels in Alchemica, and then the adding liquidity. So if you haven't voted yet, get in there, get your XP, have your voice known. Flex your power, flex your voting rights. That's what they're there for. The last one is new wearable sets, not an XP one. I think it's just a sig prop, but it's proposing to create new sets of wearables with existing wearable items. No new wearables being dispersed, just new collections, new arrangements of items to provide, typical bonuses. So that's another one to check out.
That one's interesting, and I wonder, so this is one of those things where with the new wearable sets and what we're about to dive in with the Forge, are these things going to work well together, or is this going to become a problem? Because
That's a good question. I don't think it will matter, because the sets don't change any of the stats on the existing wearables and don't provide, like, it doesn't change any of the existing assets.
Correct.
It just allows you to, mix and match, and it'll show the name of a fancy set name and give you like a +1 BRS bonus for having the whole set, whatever the bonus is.
Right.
Nothing looks terribly overpowered, but the way the thing is structured is it looks like you can select which ones you do and don't support. Unless that was maybe just the forum vote. That might have been just the forum. It'll give you the list of all the different sets and what will make up those sets.
Against abstain, so.
Yep, that must be the snapshot then.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember.
But again, just sig prop.
They weren't like super exciting. I mean, I guess they were really just to rebalance some traits.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of the sets themselves. As a matter of fact, now that I'm looking at them, they're really not even like that. They're almost mashed together. Some of these, it's like, I don't know.
Some of them seemed that way. Yep. But I didn't look into the details of the stat balancing, and there was a good dozen in there that seemed like, okay, I could see this. At least a dozen. So I voted for it. I'm curious. I had never asked myself, would this interfere with the Forge? But that's a great question.
Yeah, I don't think it'd interfere with the Forge. I think the only thing we could see happen is, so if these new sets are to rebalance traits, and the Forge is actually in a way doing the same thing, because the Forge is also allowing you to make wearables that steer different directions essentially. So if everybody all at once starts trying to, increase the spookiness of gotchis we're going to just see a spike in how many spooky gotchis exist. I don't think that's detrimental.
It's reversible.
Right.
I don't think so either. And with the Forge, it would be proposed as reversible. Should I jump right into the TLDR on the Forge?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Okay.
I didn't remember the reversible part of it, but yeah, let's go into it. Let's just do it.
All right. So the TLDR, as it's listed on the snapshot, just for clarity and continuity here, you can turn wearables into other wearables using the Forge mechanic. Wearables will be established as being made of alloys plus a schematic, which is the recipe, plus frames. This allows many new wearable designs, and the process can be deflationary, making room for new wearable sales and protecting current asset value. So this could be a way to burn or reduce the supply of existing wearables before releasing new ones. This 50,000 ghosts that they're proposing to put toward the Forge development would be for the mechanics, the smart contracts, the art, educational materials. Sounds like it would cover everything. The goal is for the DAO to do as much of the work as possible to avoid delaying Pixelcraft and their other projects that are already running. And then all the details and links to details have been included in this snapshot post if you want to follow through and check out the details for yourself.
All right, real quick.
Hit me.
I already got a big one that just hit my mind as soon as...
Burning question?
Oh, no. A burning, this is gonna happen. All right. So let's go all the way back to the Gotchiverse Game Bible, Chapter 2? And let's talk about channeling and guild channeling. And let's talk about multipliers based on how many gotchis show up wearing a certain wearable. And how wearables are about to get sliced. So, yes, you're going to suddenly have... that's really going to hurt. And I mean, it is what
Interesting take.
Yeah, like
As a result of this, it's going to reduce the supply generation for Alchemica too. It's going to like because
Well,
if there's fewer total possible gotchis that can join into this channeling because the wearables no longer exist,
there's
you're
an
going to have a
argument
smaller
against this
multiplier.
though already, because I just thought of it, and we've already talked about this plenty of times. But how many people, when we started talking about guilds, went and scooped up all of the common wearables so they could own that guild? So already, most of these
Yeah.
wearables aren't getting into the hands of 1,000 different people. You probably got one
True.
person sitting on 100 common fireballs. You know what I mean? Like, so if that person starts burning fireballs, it's no different than if they just sit on them forever.
I suppose that's true.
The
It's still
one
out of
difference
circulation.
yeah, the one difference is that, so if you're an asset owner that has like, you know, if you have 50 gotchis and 50 common fireballs, then you can actually put 50 common fireballs on 50 gotchis and then get
Go for
your
that
guild.
multiplier.
Like you can loan them
Yep.
out and get people in there. Same thing if we do wearable lending, same thing, because you can actually, although we do have the whole like the crest thing, the whole thing where like the gotchi itself can only be in so many guilds. So there's that whole part of it too. But we actually have ways around that too, because like I said, if you're that asset owner with 50 gotchis and 50 fireballs, you can also just call up your other gotchi friends that don't have fireballs or can't be in your gang or whatever, and just say, hey, I'll loan you my gotchi, you know, and then you give them a cut essentially. Like you're like, hey, show up to our guild thing. You're going to take 50% of the Alchemica just for showing up in my gotchi, you know? So like, say that's you, and you call me up and like say, hey, just I'll send you a gotchi, you know, I'll put you on the whitelist. Basically, you put all your people on the whitelist.
But make sure you're there for the group guild channeling so that you count for the multiplier.
Exactly,
because
so
it'll
it's
benefit
not even
everybody.
about like that's the way of getting around the crest thing, for instance. So you could actually realistically be in everybody's guild as long as somebody in the guild has enough gotchis to rent out to all the people who can't be in the guild.
Clever.
Yeah. So, but that was my first take, is like, wait, if we start burning wearables, then the first thing you're doing is cutting down on the size, the potential size of guild multipliers.
I can see that. That's important to note. I mean, it should be on guilds' radars for sure. But there's so much more to this.
We don't know where we're at on that. Like, we don't know when we're gonna, you know, with spillover off. And I mean, honestly, we haven't talked about guild channeling in forever. Essentially, us doing the pub crawl is turning on guild channeling.
I was just gonna say that's the Pixelcraft. Hey, we're ready for guild channeling because we're doing it ourselves. We are going to coordinate it whether you want us to or not.
The guy from New Orleans started a parade without you.
There's some beads. We're gonna have fun. Nice. Man. All right. I gotta circle back. Details on the Forge. Should I dive in?
Yes.
I kind of just want to read this overview because the overview
is
really clear and concise. Okay, so all wearables will be composed of alloys, schematics, and frames. Godlikes and pets would require additional essence, which is only obtained by sacrificing a gotchi. So there's more deflationary gotchi mechanics there. Wearables can be smelted back into alloys, schematic, frame, and essence at the forge. Doesn't say it goes back into the gotchi, though. It looks like you get the essence, but not the gotchi, so that would be a permanent burn. Wearables can only be forged if the user has all of the underlying components, and there's an alchemica cost for forging. Success can be determined by the smithing skill, which we have not seen yet, but would be implemented as part of the forge proposal here. It will feel challenging to successfully forge a godlike, which will require high smithing skill and all underlying components. Successful smithing will increase your smithing skill, so it must be another on-chain trait that we can build up and work toward. It'll cost more alloy to forge a wearable than will be obtained when melting it down. So there's a little bit of a burn there, some more deflationary mechanics. The forge allows all wearables to be turned into their base components, which can then be reused to craft new wearables. This creates fluidity in the wearable market by allowing users to craft new wearables or break down ones that they don't use into the useful parts. Breaking down wearables into base components abstracts specific aspects of wearables into designated tokens, the schematics and the frames and all that can be granularly controlled. This allows for more wearable designs and trait combinations with the introduction of schematics without net dilution. Alloys allow for wearables to be turned into other wearables with different traits, creates fluidity in the market, provides for much needed equity in traits. Frames serve as the lever for scarcity, for which emissions will be controlled by the DAO. So each wearable is composed of its underlying alloy, its schematic, and its frame. So without a schematic, you can't craft anything, and that's the one that the DAO will have its hand on the faucet knob. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of potential deflationary burning mechanics for all sorts of tokens. And I like the idea of, maybe I'm sitting on 5 or 10 wearables that I'm not using, and I'd like to really gear up for a particular quest or a particular dungeon. I don't want to invest in a uranium rod. I don't have that. I don't want to get that just for this one quest. But if I could build a wearable that could get me halfway to uranium rod or similar, stat boosts based on just my scrap wearables, I can see value in that. I'd rather do that than to have to buy a wearable just for a thing, just for one quest.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because that's another thing I'm thinking here is especially with all of the, this is a crypto market after all, with all of the skill and everything it's going to take to craft these, and everything that goes into it, I see people doing this for the speculation more than anything. The first wearable that gets crafted is going to instantly be listed on the market.
Makes sense. We don't really know how to do it yet, so it is all speculation. We don't have
and
PvP. We don't have
GBM. Because we'll have GBM by then. So the first wearable that gets crafted this way is going to go on GBM, and it's going to go to the moon. And then when it's not as badass as whoever paid for it thought it was going to be, we're going to have to nerf it to be better. And we're going to have a DAO vote to be like, this weapon sucks, fix it.
We'll see. We'll deal with that if we get there, but yeah. I don't know. It seems like they've got their focus on balance. They're trying not to wreck anything, but you introduce changes like this, something's bound to get wrecked. Something's bound to get overpowered accidentally. We'll just have to figure it out as we go, I guess.
I have here too is that, so if it's always going to take more alloy than you'll be able to get, then that means every person who does this is automatically going to burn an extra wearable.
Yes. Well,
so if you were going to use 2 to make a third, you already have to burn 3 to make because you're not going to get enough alloy out of the first 2.
Sounds like alloy is something that you would collect. I don't think you can. Oh,
alloy is what you get from tearing down a wearable. So you're actually,
unless there is a way to collect it outside of it, that is the only source of alloy.
Once you start to break it down, I think alloy will be sellable, if I'm not mistaken. There was some aspects that are able to be sold and others that aren't. And I think alloy might be the part that is. I think that's the next section.
Interesting.
So let's get into that. Alloys are one of the required components of forging and provide a pathway to turn a wearable into another with different traits. It costs more alloy to mint a wearable than can be obtained by melting it. So that's what I was saying, is you're always going to have to burn more.
Okay.
If you're starting, if you're the first person, you're going to burn more wearables than you need because you're going to need the alloy.
Right.
This is known as the alloy ratio, which can be used as a deflationary tool or provide loot box contents, raid loot rewards, etc. This can be modified with feedback or perhaps future installations, advancements in technology tree. Alloys would be tradable in the bazaar. Alloys
There it
will
is,
allow
okay.
destruction of rare items to create many less common items in a deflationary way. So you can actually go the other way too. That's interesting. So you could
make more wearables, but they'd be less good.
you could tear down mythicals to make commons. So I never thought about it going that way. So in which case the assets would be inflating, but still technically not, because you would, yeah.
Overall, it would be neutral.
And that's kind of the alloy actually. So it was already deflationary just by having to burn 2 to get 1. Now it's extra deflationary because you actually have to burn 2 and a little bit more to get 1.
I just thought of something.
Yep.
Along the same lines of your guild channeling. If you can take a mythical and break it into 20 more common fireballs, and you can get all 1,020 people to join your guild channeling, you know what I mean? Now there are opportunities for even higher multipliers.
I don't think you're
in the guild channeling.
So that's interesting though, because I don't know if you're going to have schematics for things that already exist. So I don't think there's going to be a schematic for like the fireball or the pajama hat. So you would
have to destroy one
common, but it'll be a new common schematic. It won't be an old common schematic.
Sounds like you'd be able to break down an existing, like you could take if you've got 10 fireballs, take one fireball and you could break that down into alloy, schematic, frame, and essence.
I don't think, no. So
it's godlike.
The schematics are new, right? When you break it down, you don't get a schematic from it. All wearables will be composed of alloy, schematics, and frames. But when you break down a wearable, wearables can be smelted back. Oh, so wait. But I'm assuming that's the new ones. Wearables can be smelted back into alloy, schematic, and frame and essence at the forge. I'm assuming that he's only means the new ones that have schematics and frames. Or the frame is basically the slot. So what I'm saying is that the wearables that already exist won't have schematics. Only the new wearables will have schematics.
The upgrades. The things that people are upgrading to. I see. So it
So
wouldn't
you
be
won't
like
be able
fireball
to break
schematic.
it down into a fireball. You'll be able to break it down into whatever the new common wearable is. Whatever tier of, you know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
That's what I'm assuming. Only because this would also require someone to go back and make a schematic for every wearable that exists already. I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're just going to see new schematics being produced as new wearables are produced. As opposed to, unless, and this is also another part of it though. This would all, like, if a schematic is an NFT, then you're actually creating new NFTs in the sense that, like, if you're saying that I can take a fireball and break it down into alloy, schematic, and frame, well, previously that was one fireball. Now it is alloy, schematic, and frame. That's 3 NFTs if they're all NFTs. So,
and they should be.
What I'm saying is I don't think it's going to produce a schematic from a fireball. I think you're only going to get schematics from the new wearables, not the old wearables. Because otherwise, I think this would have to be almost like it's a retro application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that needs more clarification, but it's a good observation there. It does say smelted back into alloys.
Right.
So it must be assuming that you've already crafted a new custom upgraded wearable and you've decided to undo that process.
Right. I'm assuming you can't undo the old NFTs because they were never made to do that.
Yeah, you can't disassemble one fireball and get like one basic common fireball and get the pieces. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying I think when you disassemble it, all you're going to get is the alloy. Whereas if you were to take something crafted from that, then you'll be able to break that back down into its components because it was made from the components.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, in a sense, I'm saying that the wearables that exist right now are their molecular wearable. It is what it is. And in order to add the schematic in the frame, that would have to be created for every wearable that already exists, because it doesn't currently exist. Whereas for the new
It doesn't say that they wouldn't.
It will be created. Oh, I guess it wouldn't be any different. I mean, I don't know.
The DAO would just have to figure that all out.
Right. Well, and that was the other part. We want to keep this light for Pixelcraft. So,
right.
All right, Essence.
A lot of interesting mechanics here. Yeah, hit me with Essence. What do you got?
Essence is obtained by sacrificing a Gotchi. Each Gotchi will give up essence when sacrificed. All pets and godlikes require essence. So not everything, only pets and godlikes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that you have to kill a Gotchi and put it into a pet. This creates a unique lore opportunity. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like they want to haunt 3 really bad. How bad do you want Raffles, guys?
Creates a unique lore opportunity where each godlike carries the soul of a sacrificed Gotchi, a powerful deflationary mechanic and source of lore. Deflationary pressure on Gotchis will support Gotchi price, while hopefully creating room for H3 as you called it. There will likely need to be a DAO vote on whether or to drop essence on owners who have previously sacrificed Gotchis. That's an
I would say yes.
Yeah. The schematic is a recipe for ingredients and how to make the wearable. It is one of the required components for forging. The schematic is returned to the owner if they smelt one of their wearables. This provides unlimited opportunity. So first of all, return to the owner. That implies you already owned the schematic at some point. There is no schematic for everything that currently exists. So that's where I'm getting my line of thinking.
Okay.
So this provides unlimited opportunities for Pixelcraft, the DAO, or even other games to create and design schematics which can then be made into wearables. These could be available by GMEM distribution, a FGC-like fake Gotchi cards-like mechanism, dungeon loot box items. This will allow for variation and filling of stat gaps. Frames are one of the required components. There would be 36 frames, one for each rarity slot. This allows granular control over emission for each slot. The decisions of how many wearables should be emitted per slot is governed by the DAO, with current emissions set to 0 by DAO governance. An emissions document known as a framework will be crafted and submitted with this proposal to provide a transparent, agreed-upon path forward with wearable distribution. Frames will serve as the bottleneck and enforcer of scarcity in forging. So far,
and frames is the one you said. Frames would be purchasable, sellable. That's a bizarre item, right? The frames, or the alloy is the one you confirmed.
It's covered.
I'm looking at the snapshot page. So
I'm in the document, the Forge overview.
Got it.
The decision of how many wearables should be emitted per slot is governed by the DAO. So as of right now, there are no decisions on this. So this is actually interesting too, because I guess we would have to release a certain amount of frames from the get-go. So it would probably be the first vote to be like, oh, well, we need, we don't need any more like torso wearables or whatever, so we're not going to make any of those frames.
I see. Yeah.
We need more, eyes and hands.
Face,
so we're going to
hands,
release
pets.
Only hands. And so we would, as a group, decide how many of each, and it might even be that each one of these is a separate sig prop of how many of this slot, how many of that slot.
I'd prefer that.
Right. And so then the frames really cap what can happen because you need a frame. Schematics are a little bit more like there can almost be unlimited schematics. If you don't have a frame to put it in, good luck.
That's what this reads like. I think that's a smart play. Because that allows the creativity to flourish. You know, you can make schematics for whatever you want, but it doesn't automatically mean that because you've created that schematic, there's going to be a population of those items in the wearable market. Because you got to have a frame.
Another thing here too with the so all the frames come out. All the frames get smelted. Now every frame that was minted exists in a wearable. So in other words, you can't use the forge anymore until somebody breaks down something to get a frame. Or the DAO releases the frames.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's where you'll end up if you run out of frames, if there's no more frames on the market. And then, I mean, just like, that's the thing. That will never happen. It's just like I said with you know, we've said we're not going to get Haunt 3 till every portal's open. We will never have every portal open. I promise you, it'll be 35 years from now, well after the Gotchiverse was supposed to be over, and there's going to be a closed portal.
Yeah, because someone's going to want to speculate.
Well, if
collect.
for no other reason, somebody's going to, like, you know, lose their ledger, and that's it. It's gone. Like, never open in that portal.
That's true. Even one mistake, one accident, one compromised account, one, like, accidental death, then nobody had your recovery key. Yeah.
But, like, Portal 1 is listed at, like, 50,000 ghosts or something like that. That is going to sit there forever unopened. Nobody's going to open
Portal 1 will never get opened. Yeah.
The second you open Portal 1, it literally lost all of its value. If it's not, you know, that perfect, you know, strike, then if you don't open it and Gotchi Zero is not in there, then, like, you know.
Yeah, that Gotchi Zero. Scary stuff.
So yeah, like, there's some portals that are never going to be opened, you know? Which actually now has me wondering, what about, is Portal 420 open? Is Portal 666 open? Did someone open a portal to hell?
No. I want the party portal. Where's the Portal 420 portal? I'll bet you that one's been spawned. How would we find this out? URL would be the easiest way, right? Like,
it seems like Fireball would be somehow have the tool for that. I don't know. Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, if I go to my Aavegotchis,
you can actually just search by, if you go to closed portals and look for that portal ID. If it's
666 has not been spawned.
There you go. And also, there's H1 and H2 666.
420 has been spawned, is a Rastafarian rarity 540.
Nice.
Well played.
Giga Chad.
Kinship zero.
Ooh. Giga Brad.
Boo as fuck. Level 1, 0 XP, 0 kinship. Gotchi ID 420. That is such a shame.
What? Oh.
Look at these stats, too. Look at these stats. Hang on.
Gotchi 420 ain't getting no love. Who are you, sir? God.
I know. We're getting a little off track here. Oops. But it's fun to do big things.
Oh, man.
I'm going to drop this in chat real quick. The embedded chat.
Something else this whole smithing thing makes me think of is, you know, Final Fantasy VII, man. In Final Fantasy VII, you had to do chocobo breeding. And, like, it was the only way to get to some villains and some secret spots in the game was to breed these birds. And you would have to, like, go around the game and try to find these random nuts. And you'd have to feed... Yeah, you'd have to have 2 breeds of a chocobo and then feed them a certain nut. And then, like, hope that their baby was the chocobo you needed. And you would have to do this, like, bunches of times sometimes, because
farm it until you get what you want.
Right, like, and now see, it seems like with the smithing, there's gonna be, like, some skill to this, and you'll be able to earn points smithing some kind of way. Whereas I think with the chocobo breeding, it was really purely random, and it was just basically like if you had enough time and nuts to breed these birds, kind of thing. Because some of the nuts to do it were extremely hard to find. So you would almost have to, like, go to some part of the game where you knew that item existed and grind until you would find the nut. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of that right away because there was many times where you would like have the right birds, you would have the right nut, and you would just keep trying to smith, and you're not getting the right chocobo. It was like extremely hard to get the golden chocobo. The golden chocobo could do it all. It could walk on land. It could walk on mountains. It could walk on fire. I don't know. I think it probably
Shouldn't be easy to get a character like that. It should be hard.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Because other than that, you could get one that could walk on mountains, but it couldn't walk in water. You could get one that could walk in water, but it couldn't walk on mountains. So it got it to where you could reach certain secret parts of the game, but in order to get all the parts of the game, you needed that gold bird. So, yep. And you also, so getting back into this, the forge itself kind of reminded me of that too, because in order to do this, there was only one place in the game where you could do chocobo breeding. So you had to go back to the chocobo farm, which was something that you like ran into in the first third of the game. It's like a 100-hour game if you grind.
Yeah.
So, which I don't even know how that stacks up to new games. That might be short. Who knows? But, yeah, you would have to go back to the chocobo farm to do it. And that's kind of what it's saying here is, so the forge, and this has also been discussed as how this would look, where it would be, whether it's a Gotchiverse, like if it's a public good and you just go to this place in the Gotchiverse, or if it would be an installation. But it's saying right here, the forge will likely not be a Gotchiverse installation on every parcel. Rather, it can be a landmark installation that interacts with the Forge smart contract.
Interesting. Okay.
I kind of like this too. What I was saying when I first heard this is forging is probably not going to be a common event. So if you're going to forge, hopefully you're calling me, Hefe, or No Futuristic to come out, and we're having a party
and
while you
stream
forge,
that.
we need to be streaming these historic events of new wearables being created. Like, this is like needs to happen, which honestly, it like whoever's doing it needs to be recording or sharing their screen. You know what I mean? Like, one of us can be there to like be the AV person or whatever, but realistically, even if we have to be doing it in a Discord channel like this, they got to share their screen because they're going to get to see all the good
we want to see. That's right. Yeah, they'll get to see the interface. They'll get to see how they're interacting, how their pieces and parts fit together to make that.
So
and not every forge will be a successful forge.
We need to make this
based on your smithing level.
We need to say like,
I think it's easy.
Don't forge without us. Call GMI when you're forging because we will be there to like advertise the event. Like, we need to make this an event. Like, every forging is a big deal. I mean, every forging is an NFT drop. You know what I mean? Like, it's a party.
That's true. I think the forge is a cool idea. I have voted for the forge. If you would like to signal your vote for or against the forge idea, it is a sig prop right now. Get on in there and drop your vote.
Hell yeah.
I suggest you vote yes, but that's just me. I'm going to go full bias, full push, full shill. I like it.
It sounds like a path towards community-made wearables, too. So I kind of like that aspect of it.
Agreed.
This seems like it is it's a good enough mechanism like Fake Gotchis where you can open up to community artists, community wearables, but you have this well-controlled implementation that makes sure that it doesn't get out of hand. Because basically, like, everybody can be, it'll be interesting to see how this goes with the schematics, because will we have a queue type situation where a bunch of people want to like put up their wearable. Well, I guess it's also kind of like Fake Gotchis, because if I'm the person who owns the schematic, but I'm not an artist, I'm going to be looking for an artist to design the wearable that I want to create. So it becomes
that's very true.
Collaboration.
I like that.
So yeah, implementation and development. The DAO Forge team will perform the smart contract work. Economic modeling, community updates, and project management. The team will consist of a technical lead, economics lead, project sponsor, and possibly an art lead. We are still discussing how to manage art creation with Pixelcraft, as schematics and frames alone require 281 new art pieces. Alloys, Essence, and the Forge will also need art. Interesting thing here, just real quick. Pixelcraft. So schematics and frames. Schematics shouldn't really need art, right? It just needs, like, until it's created. Like, the schematic should look like whatever the thing that is being crafted is, right? I mean, I guess we might need a general, like, blank schematic. Like, what is a schematic?
Like a blueprint.
Yeah. And then frames, but it's saying between schematics and frames alone, it requires 281 new art pieces. And I'm not understanding where that comes from, because once again, the frames also shouldn't need to, like, really look like much. I don't see why these pieces need to have, like,
We'll scroll down to the next page.
You know?
It just kind of shows like a sketch, like an outline shape. So the art wouldn't necessarily be difficult. It just requires the assets to be created
so that you can look at it and see what it is. Like, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So like a traced outline wouldn't be hard to create. The hours on that would be low, but it's still one of 281 images that would need to be created for this UI to work.
Right. So I guess they're trying to figure out, like, should Pixelcraft make these, or should this be community art? Like, I think, that's kind of a hard.
It sounds like they're intending to make it. Yeah, they're intending to make it as much DAO driven, as much DAO led as possible. So I would suspect that would be community art.
Well, I guess that's the one thing, is Pixelcraft does need to be in control of the aesthetic of the Gotchiverse.
They must have some sort of a final say over what gets approved or what the look looks like. But it does seem that this proposal. Yeah.
That's what it says here. We are still discussing how to manage art creation with Pixelcraft. The DAO should and will be involved along every step of the process. Feedback and help in all aspects is welcome and encouraged. We can develop a better product if we pool our talents. Some major questions that need to be answered can be found in the Major Decision Points tab of the Google Sheet. Some examples of major decision points that will need a DAO vote for full development include the following. What ratio should alloys follow for forging? Absolute rarity, friends ratio, mall ratio, a hybrid combination. Should essence be airdropped to previously sacrificed gotchis? Should face, eye, and wearables be codified as less abundant? Should the forge be an installation with use gated by the Gotchiverse, or should it be a protocol level smart contract? That's interesting. I think it should be in the Gotchiverse personally, but because I guess that question is basically saying, like, should a person who doesn't own Aavegotchi assets be able to interact with the forge? I don't think so. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think so either. Just even if we're looking at it from purely a gameplay, like, fun perspective, one, it gives you a reason to actually be in the Gotchiverse, going to the Gotchiverse forge to craft something. Like, you're already enveloped in this lore. To do it from the back end on OpenSea seems...
Well, it goes to what I said about, like...
sketch.
That's the speculation part of it. If you're here to just, like, craft a new wearable, then you're going to be you're here to put it on the GPM. You're not here to make some new wearable that anybody wants. You're not thinking about it from a gameplay standpoint if you're not crafting it in the Gotchiverse. Unless there's some other logistical reason why having it be an external smart contract makes more sense. I kind of like the idea of it being in the Gotchiverse. Should gotchis be able to craft multiple godlikes or one max per gotchi? That's an interesting take. One per gotchi. I don't even know how that would really limit you, because if you're the kind of person who can giga chat up to crafting godlikes, because that's not going to be a cheap journey, then you probably have more than one gotchi. So
Yeah.
capping how many godlikes you can make by gotchi, you're just gonna move to the next gotchi, right? Oh, but I guess the skill's gonna be non-transferable, the smithing skill. See, that's something we've been talking about in the DAO that's gonna get real interesting too, is what is the gotchi's game experience versus what is my game experience? So me as an account,
Oh,
right? Like what do I accrue as my, experience points and badges or whatever, as opposed to my gotchi? Because it's the same thing like with an in-game character. Like, do I have to literally beat this game with all of my gotchis in order to experience the full experience, or do I, as a
hope not.
yeah.
Or do you, as the player, as the account, complete the game? I see what you're asking.
And I mean, there's going to be aspects of both, but this right here implies, when you say should gotchis be able to craft multiple godlikes, well, that implies that the smithing skill would be attached to the gotchi and not the account.
Sure does. Does it have a confirmation that the smithing skill would be tied to the gotchi? I'm looking.
It says that it will happen in the Gotchiverse. But no, it doesn't say whether it is for the gotchi or the player. So this is why I'm saying it's not going to be cheap though, because a common, when you smith with a common, you're only going to get one smithing point. But when you smith with a godlike, you'll get 31 points. So in order to increase your smithing skill, you're going to have to smith more and more and more, which means you're going to be burning wearables like crazy. So if you got it like that, to just be forging all the time to become a master smith, then, I mean, I don't know. This is a hard one here, because on one hand, yeah, I guess like you don't want to make it pay to win, where somebody who is that OP can actually just keep like crafting godlike wearables because they've got it to burn like that. But on the other hand, if I just went through all that crap of like powering up my gotchi smithing skill, and now I'm like, I can't use it anymore because I've done my one godlike. And
You burned your one. Yeah, I'd be mad.
I'd be a little mad at that. But I mean, you can still do tiers below that, but to say like, nope, you've peaked.
Yep. Thanks for investing all that.
You've made the greatest wearable you'll ever make, and that's it. You're done, sir. And then you get
Need one for the other hand.
Just go back and break them all back down. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, I got it.
Could be
like
very
that.
interesting to see what this happens.
I'm just gonna flood the market with frames. How you like me now?
That's right. Easy there, Steve Bannon. You want to wreck frames? Flood the zone with shit. That was his media strategy. Oh,
all
shoot.
right. Well, we are 15 minutes over. We've been deep in the forge. Forging deeply. Anybody want to jump in here real quick before we punch out? I don't like this
I saw
view.
Rigo and Goobs and Foreign.
I just got to say, the one thing I don't like about this view, and maybe you need to be on this since I can't, but this new view, the way I'm recording, I can't see how many people are in the room.
Oh.
So yeah, like I don't know
6.
when people came and went. I just been talking my head off, and but
I just caught up on chat like a minute ago. But Goobs and Rigo are here, and Foreign slid in a bit ago, and Maynard's been with us the whole time. My dudes.
Oh, I guess I could. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I could. Yeah, if I looked over here, I have a pop-out window. So if I actually looked at the other thing, I can see there's people in here. See, I didn't even know my Kalium left. I thought he'd just been quiet this whole time.
That doesn't sound like my Kalium.
Oh. All right. Well, hey, man, the new frame looks good on my screen. we got a new look. Anybody who watches this on YouTube later is gonna see a brand new look. We got Manor
Nice.
working on some new logo for us from A to Z. So
Ooh, freshening up.
Yeah. So appreciate that, brother. And any closing thoughts by anybody? Well, I do have one. I have one. Actually, I probably have a couple.
Go for it.
Actually, I got a bunch of them. Shit, I might as well just drop a bunch of them.
Pick one.
No,
Pick
all
one.
of them. You get it all. All right. First of all, in 40 minutes, I guess I'm going to be right back in this room talking about music business. I don't really have a plan or a structure. I just want to start doing this. So I like 40 minutes.
But
from
Friday,
now,
though.
Friday, I've got a plan. But
Yeah.
Friday, and it's going to be this same time slot. So 40 minutes from now is 8 p.m. for me. So whatever the top of the hour is for you, I'm going to be trying to do multiple days a week where I'm going to be doing live streams. Some of the live streams will be streaming music, be streaming Gotcha Gang music. I got some music from Slaps. I think Hardcore is going to be giving me some stuff. And
Super Paul's here too.
Hell yeah, man. Get in that thread. We got a thread under the old Common Ground. And yeah, I'm just going to be doing a live stream with some music to fill that gap in between D420 and GMI Syncopator. But tonight,
Perfect.
and then other nights I'm going to be doing other things, but tonight I'm going to get into the music biz stream, and then other nights I might be, doing other things. But basically I'm going to try to take that slot multiple nights of the week to just like music biz, music, whatever. Like it's going to be all about music. I'm opening a space for music and musicians and NFTs, whatever, the whole thing. Been learning a lot of stuff, and I want to be able to share my knowledge, about Web3 and Web2 distribution. So definitely looking to do that. And then, other news is I got the Halloween stuff going on. We got the Halloween drops on Lens. If you haven't been looking out for them, we got another one coming Thursday. And then another one. This is more my other life. But, I work for the Bounty Hunter podcast. And Bounty Hunter just switched over to Quorum. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to that podcast, but it's pretty cool. And definitely, like even Coder Dan and Jesse are aware of Bounty Hunter. I don't know if y'all remember this, but a few months back in the community call, there was somebody put up a tweet that was like, oh, look, somebody's tweeting about us because we're like one of the most active DAOs in the ecosystem. And that was actually Brandon from Bounty Hunter, who had tweeted about us. And I was like, oh yeah, I work for that show. And everybody was like, oh, that's cool. Like Coder Dan and Jesse were well aware of it. So
nice.
So yeah, be back here in, 35 minutes to talk some music.
Do a little break and a regroup. I like it.
Hell yeah. And then, other than that, I'll get this episode uploaded and I will see you all in the future because I can't see you in the past.
Fair. All right, friends. Thanks for coming.
Yes, everybody can join the music. I'll be right back in this channel. I will do it here and I'll be live streaming to Twitch.
See you, friends.
Videos are seeing you in the past. Holy crap. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Thanks, everybody, for being here.